All right, Mike, tell us about Famous Toastery. What is this concept and how did it get started?
Well, I'm assuming we're talking to a lot of entrepreneurs out there, which means they're just at least this much crazy.
Yes, we all are.
Two buddies that grew up on the same street in New York. One of them came to Charlotte, felt like they needed a brunch spot, and they found a spot, a house in Huntersville, North Carolina, that they thought would be a great spot for their brunch spot. So they brought down a chef buddy who we still use his recipes to this day. He is one of our larger franchisees now. And they got it going. And it only took them about 3 years to burn the place down to the ground.
That's an episode in itself, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think we could probably break down year by full episode for these guys. But yeah, the recipe for this was really, really good food. Fresh means something different, I think, to a lot of brands. I mean, for the entire 21 years for Famous Toasty's been around, every turkey's cooked in house, right? They've never done anything prepackaged or pre-cooked. It's the tagline for 20 years was famously fresh, and they did it in an ethos of absolute and utter hospitality. Brian and Robert are famous, and that's probably, you can't trademark toast. It started life as Toast Cafe. So I think Famous Toastery sounded pretty good to them, and that's what they ran with. And, after a couple of years, the regular customers like, I want to do this. How can we do it? And they said, we have no idea. So in 2014, they said, we'll try it. We'll try to do this franchise thing. And they did it for a while, and then they realized, hey, we're really well intentioned, but we got to slow this down. So they did. They stopped franchising in 2019 for a couple of years. Wanted to make sure that we had systems and just the right playbook in place to ensure that we're returning the investment. I think a good franchisee obviously has some passion about what they're doing, and all these folks did, but the playbook wasn't necessarily there. So we picked it back up in 2022, really full bore about talking to new partners, and since then it's got some runway. But Famous Toastery is really about being the brunch spot in the 3 to 5 mile radius right around the restaurant.
Well, okay, first of all, they stepped in some luck by literally stop franchising right before COVID and then picked things back up after we were allowed out.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. It was lucky. It was also the right thing to do.
Yeah.
They recognize, hey, man, well-meaning people really don't mean much anything, and we mean really well. But we've taken on the responsibility of livelihoods of other people,
Hmm.
and we've got to service what we have. So, I mean, that was the point of this pause. Yeah, and then we all lived through 2020, 2021, and we still had franchisees at that point in time that we had to take care of. To Robert's credit and Brian's credit, they got everybody to the other side of it.
That's
Of what it
amazing.
was. So yeah.
How did they find you? Where did you come along?
So Robert Maynard oversees and founded a group of incubating restaurants called One Life Brands. Not just restaurants. He's in quite a few things. And I had worked with his managing director in a couple previous stops. I had run into him in my first franchising stop back in the early 2000s at Boston Pizza. And then he also brought me on at Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes back in 2017. And what my specialty is about brand development and ensuring that the economic models are in place without doing drastic changes to a brand. What Toasters appealed to me was I felt like it was a best in the world offering, particularly in the brunch space. They were doing everything fresh. We're not achieving the results through discounting, because that's not a bullet you ever wanted in the gun, and that it needed a little bit of prime cost tweaking in the restaurant space, at least. That's your cogs and your labor. And over 20 years that the brand had been around, they continue to add things to the menu because everything they make is great. And I'm not saying that because I'm a Famous Toastery homer. I'm saying it because when I flew to Charlotte and ate there, I said, you guys got something here, but we can't look like the Cheesecake Factory menu, right? It's got to be
Right.
duplicatable. So how are we going to claw some of these things back? And I had done that in my previous stop. So we had a really nice connection, and I'm at the stage in my career where I really got to like what I'm doing and who I'm doing it with. And that's exactly what I found here. It was a move for my wife and I. We had been in Texas for years,
Hmm.
thought we were done. And for us to take our old bones and say we had one more adventure in us, it had to be the right stop.
Wow, that's great. I think, though, we should always be at the stage of our career where we're enjoying what we're doing and we're enjoying the people who we're doing it with. Never,
Totally agreed
never,
wholeheartedly.
Yeah, it's never too soon to do that. But, it's always at the same point. It's, when I tell my kids, take more risk when you're young because you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And here I am old, and a move was a risk. I loved what I was doing, but this was something that was really good. I mean, my wife and I have been together, been married 31 years in a row.
Congrats. In a, in a row. I'm right behind you at 30 years. So we know the wives are always right, right?
That's right, absolutely. And
That's the
when she
secret.
watches this, you're right, sweetie. For her to do it, our folks are there. Our kids, we have grown kids that are starting their professional careers there, and for us to come to North Carolina and do this was a risk, but it was a positive and a measured one. It's not risky from that, but she's a restaurant person too. She gets
That
it,
helps.
and it's for us to be associated with something we're this proud of. I think it was an easy decision.
What were some of the things that kind of blew you away on the menu that you tried?
The first thing I had today, as a matter of fact. The very first thing, when I walk into the company restaurants, they're going, we need a corned beef hash with poached eggs medium and rye toast for Mr. Sebazco. And they'd be right. They can't go wrong with that. In fact, I don't think I tried too many things past that for the first month I was here. It was so good. You really can taste the difference when someone cooks their own corned beef in-house for that product, and we use it for a Reuben. I think we've got a best in the world product there, and I'm addicted to it. And I think I've gained 20 pounds in the 2.5 years I've been here, all in corned beef. If they measured it, they'd say you are 98%.
Mike, where are you from originally?
So you're probably admiring my non-regional diction, but I was born in New Jersey, and my dad liked to say the car ran out of gas in Ottumwa, Iowa. Far away. And I did grow up in Iowa, and then a lot of years in Texas. And my restaurant career has had us in a few spots, mostly in Texas. We had a great 8-year run in Cincinnati. Loved the Midwest, but North Carolina, I think, is my forever place.
That's awesome. When did you know that Famous Toastery was going to be a big hit? Like when you got,
Yeah.
because the company had already been running when you got there.
Yeah, it was a big hit. And I think that's kind of speaks volumes to what Brian and Robert created. The ethos of this concept was, I'll be frank, the first time I heard the name Famous Toastery, I was like, where did you come up with that? And they went into the story about how they couldn't trademark Toast Cafe and all of it. That's kind of a weird name. And I ate in the Davidson location to meet with Robert, the founder. And I was looking around going, not all brunch places are like this. Maybe this is kind of a North Carolina thing. Davidson's this charming town,
Yeah.
right? And the food came, and it came in 7 minutes, and it was very clearly scratch. And I was like, if this tastes as good as it looks. I mean, my wife was flirting with the whole idea at the time. Robert actually flew to Texas to meet her, right? Because
Okay.
it was a big move for us. And that's kind of the way guy
Smart.
he is, right? We went to dinner, then I was able to bring her back out, and I wanted her to have the same experience I had because she's a restaurant person too, and she's a business person. And she was like, oh my gosh, why doesn't everybody do this? And I said, well, that's kind of what we think it should be. So, let's see if this goes. But, for us, it's not necessarily all about franchising. We'll always do company restaurants where it makes sense for us to do that. Yeah, we love it.
Well, you've clearly identified what makes it unique is from scratch, but what makes this scalable? How have you been able to make a scalable franchise out of something that is everything made from scratch?
Yeah, I think that was the mission when we got here 2.5 years ago, was to make it exactly scalable. Because it's fresh, everybody has the same recipe for turkey and corned beef and how we make hollandaise every 4 hours and all that stuff. So there wasn't going to be a lot of deviation. However, we operate in Myrtle Beach, we operate in Wilmington, some coastal areas. We also operate in Virginia, where we had to allow for some regionalization of those menus, right? I mean, everything that we do is local. So what we've done is when we contracted the menus, we said, you guys still have some regional things, and we just need to approve that. But there has to be one set of specifications for how those things are going to be prepared. So we talked to our franchisees about that. We have some that have absolutely earned the right to continue with some of the things I think are crazy on their menu, but sell. So, the 3 circles for a Famous Toastery offering are right out of good to great. It's got to be best in the world. It's got to be profitable, and we have to be passionate about it. It has to fit the space. If it satisfies that, that's the approval process.
That, by the way, should be a masterclass for emerging franchise founders to hear on how to build a company and the criteria you need to, to deliver the right product or service. That's fantastic.
Oh, well, thanks for saying it. I wish I coined it. I didn't. So my book's still going to be in development for a while.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fumey, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.